Well, shalom. This is Todd Bennett from Jerusalem, Israel. I'm here for Sukkot 2022. It's been a little while. I didn't come because of all the COVID lockdowns and vaccination requirements, but I'm back and I praise Yah for the ability to be here. And I know so many people around the world wanted to be here, but couldn't for one reason or another. So I just thought I'd try to share a little bit of my experience here. I'm going to be going into the old city for a few items that I need before the high day begins this evening. Of course, this year we're a couple days off from the rabbinic calendar, which is fine with me, but when you come here, it means that the state of Israel sometimes is celebrating a holiday a couple days off. So yesterday when I flew in, everything was essentially shut down because it was a national holiday. So today is a day when I can get things done, and those who subscribe to Judaism are in the midst of their Sukkot celebration while we're getting ready. I just finished my Sukkah up in my Mirpeset. So anyways, they're in full swing in their celebrations, and I'm going to walk through the Jaffa Gate, which you can see behind me, and do a few errands, and I'll just let you share with some of the sights and sounds. So come along. So this is the Jaffa Gate. It's probably one of the busiest gates in the old city, next to the Damascus Gate. And of course, the names are pretty self-explanatory. The Jaffa Gate is named after the city Jaffa, which is on the Mediterranean Sea. It was a major trade city, and it's to the west of here. And so the Jaffa Gate points to Jaffa, and so people that were coming here to trade and such would come from Jaffa through this gate. And the same holds true with the Damascus Gate. Damascus Gate is facing to the north, and people going to Damascus and coming from Damascus would go through that gate. So this is probably tourist central. This is where all the tour groups come and start their day tours around the city, and big shopping for souvenirs and tourist type items. So this is where you're going to find all the tour groups and tourists as they enter the city. The Damascus Gate is mainly Arabs use that because it's in technically East Jerusalem. So that's where most of their commerce takes place, in and outside of the Damascus Gate. So I didn't come with a shofar. I tried to pack lightly. So I'm going to go see my shofar guy here and grab a shofar so I can sound it after the setting of the sun to see, well, this is what happens. So I was going to go down that street. Normally you can go down that street, but now they've turned it into a one-way street at this point, which is fine. There's plenty of ways to get to where you need to go in the old city. This is the Citadel of David here. It wasn't really David's citadel, but it was a fortress used by the Romans and attached to Herod's complex when he ruled over Jerusalem. This is where Pontius Pilate would have actually been. Herod was just off to the east. They found his palace remnants along the eastern wall. This is Christ Church. This is where I spent my first trip to Israel 22 years ago. Came here with my brother-in-law, and it was during the Intifada, so there weren't many people here. It was kind of felt like you had Jerusalem all to yourself, and now now it's gotten quite busy. That's great. It's good to see life in the city. Good to see people celebrating, children playing, all that. But everything you see here essentially is not from ancient times as far as we're concerned in the biblical sense of things. The walls are pretty much Ottoman and earlier. There are some spots where you can see, if you dig down some of the ancient walls. There's a spot in the Jewish Quarter where you can see the wall during Nehemiah's time. And I usually take my tour groups there to take a look at that, because it's interesting to recognize that we're walking on top of history here. So much of what we read about in the scriptures is below us. 30, 40, 50, you know, it depends how much debris is there from whatever destruction that followed. But anyways, there are some spots where they actually dig down and they do find old roads. Over by the Ophel Garden, they have a lot of excavation. Ophel Garden is just below what they call the Temple Mount. And oh, we got another block. So they are just directing traffic outside of the Jewish Quarter, and we are in the Armenian Quarter. So all the tourists are going through the Armenian Quarter. Of course, they do this during the feasts, and I would say probably Easter is the worst. I got stuck here one year. I was trying to get into the city and show my group some things. Well, it was the Christian Easter Sunday, and they were doing the Via Dolorosa, and I'm telling you, it just clogs up the whole city when you get that many Christians trying to walk the same path through very small streets. So anyways, this is really not bad at all compared to Easter. I'd say Easter is probably the worst time to be in the old city if you want to actually move. But anyways, we're actually approaching the Zion Gate up ahead, which is it goes out onto what they call Mount Zion. It's actually the Western Hill. Mount Zion is actually the city of David. And when I bring groups over here, I show them. But you can easily read that in the scriptures that Mount Zion is the city of David. So this is really misnamed Mount Zion. But over here, you can find a gate that's got bullet holes all over it, because there was a battle that took place here when the Jews overtook the city. I think that was in 67 that a lot of that fighting took place at that gate. But anyways, yeah, you can see some people actually up on the wall. I like to take people to do the wall walk. You can go one direction or the other. They have a couple different paths that you can take around the city. And we like to bring shofars and read scriptures and, you know, prophesy from the walls of Jerusalem. So again, even though these aren't the walls from 2,000 plus years ago, they're still the walls of Jerusalem this day, and so that's something we like to do. But anyways, outside the Zion Gate here, which is ahead of me, you'll see the traditional spot of the Last Supper, right on top of David's tomb, the traditional site of David's tomb, which is quite interesting that those two locations are right next to each other. That area gets really busy around Shavuot, based upon the tradition that David was both born and passed away on Shavuot when he was 70 years old. So that his tomb becomes a real site of celebration during Shavuot, and people stay up all night. And I like to go and see that. Although he probably was buried over again on Mount Zion, below Mount Zion, in the Kidron Valley, where the tomb of where kings and royalty were buried, and they found royal tombs down there, and that's a traditional spot. So, you know, or that's probably the actual spot, and people just, you know, they come up with traditions, and you have to try to sift out truth from tradition. Of course, that's much of what I've been doing for the past 22 plus years through my research and my books, trying to get through all the tradition that I learned being raised as a Christian, and find out some things that are false and inherited, and sift through that and get down to the truth. That's the Zion Gate. People will be leaving the old city by going there. So the way they redirected us here, I'm going to take us around into the Jewish quarter. I'm sure all the souvenir shops are not too happy about this inside the Jaffa Gate because they're relying upon all that tourist traffic to pass by. And you'll go by and you'll hear people saying, "Hello, my friend, come see my shop," all that sorts of things. They're just trying to get people's attention to get you to come in, look around, and let me tell you, they were pretty assertive in the days when there weren't a lot of people here. I actually had a guy jump in the back seat of my car. I drove in the Jaffa Gate, like I said, the first time I was here. I didn't realize, you can only drive cars so far. When you're looking at it on a map, looks like you got roads, the pad going through all the old city, but really not. You can only drive a car certain areas, and so we drove in the Jaffa Gate, and it pretty much dead ends at Christ Church. So they do have a parking lot in there, so we were able to park the car in there. But the guy jumped in the back of the car and said, "Oh, come see my shop." And of course, it's like, get out of here. And anyways, it's kind of funny because I see him. I see him all the time when I'm here in Jerusalem, and I know where his shop is. I understand why he did it, because his shop's kind of out of the way, and people don't naturally walk by where his shop is located. So he wanted to get kind of tries to drag you there so you can see his stuff. But anyways, tough times, desperate times call for desperate measures sometimes. So this is where people will be going. Most of these people are going down to the wall, the western wall, because of course it's Sukkot for them, and so they're going to bring their lulav and their citron, and they'll go down there and pray at the wall. And but that's not my destination today. I'm not really a big fan of the wall. When I used to come here originally, go to the western wall, the holiest place, in Jerusalem. But then I really started to discover that wall is probably a Herodian wall, a Roman wall that was probably for Fort Antonia, not the temple. When you consider the fact that the 10th Roman Legion was based in Jerusalem, that would have involved about 5,000 soldiers and about 5,000 support staff, and then an armory and temples and prostitutes and hotels for dignitary guests, and headquarters and room for drills. And you'd in the traditional Fort Antonia, you're just not going to find that there. The traditional Fort Antonia is this tiny little place located north of what they call the Temple Mount. And so I think the Temple Mount was actually the Roman fortress. They found dice there. They found a tunnel that goes underground from that location to Roman baths. Now, unless the priests were sneaking out to go to the Roman baths, there would be no reason to have that tunnel there. And unless they were gambling up on top of the Temple Mount, there'd be no reason to find dice up there and other information. And so it just, when you say, and on top of it, it's the same size as the encampment of the second Roman legion that they found up near Megiddo. The Romans were very consistent, and they built things the same. And so it makes all the sense in the world that the Temple Mount was actually the site of the 10th Roman Legion, and that the temple was actually below it to the south in what they call the Ophel Gardens. And I could go on and on, but I just wanted to mention that. That's why I don't just dart over to the Western Wall all the time. I don't feel like praying to a Roman fort, but that's a whole nother argument. You can see all the IDF around. They bring them in for Sukkot. And this right here is the Cardo. And again, this is not the Cardo from Jerusalem when Yeshua would have walked in the land. This is the Cardo of when Hadrian came and destroyed Jerusalem after the second Jewish revolt around 130, I think 5-6 AD. He'd had it. And he said, I'm going to utterly destroy this. It was destroyed in 70 CE by Titus, but then there was an upheaval and revival after that. And so he says, I'm going to utterly destroy this. So he built a pagan city on top of Jerusalem and called it Aelia Capitolina. And so this is the Cardo, or the main artery, so to speak, the heart of the Aelia Capitolina, that pagan city. So again, you like to get down to the biblical times, but even there, that's only down, not quite 2,000 years. And like I say, it's hard. It gets harder and harder the more building that takes place. It gets harder to get down to those lower levels. But we should be walking by one in a minute. I'm going to go down into the Cardo, and which is a little shopping area here. And they have a couple spots where they've actually dug down so you can see the lower levels. Just get a peek, just a glimpse.
אז יהודים חזרו לגור בירושלים, הייתה תקופה שהם היו משמשים בהר הבית. מרגישים את בהר הבית, שזה השם. אבל יהודים מדהים
You see how quiet it got here. Once you get off the beaten path, you can find some quiet areas around the old city, even during the feasts. This is actually a neat deal. I'll show you real quick up here. You can get up on top of some of the city, and that's kind of neat. To kind of shortcut over here sometimes. And you can go to different places on top and really avoid the hustle and bustle. You can just barely see the Church of the Ascension over there, that pointed steeple straight ahead. And then over to the left, there is Mount Scopus. And if we went down in over here, we'd be in the Christian Quarter. You can actually see some Christian churches. But we're going to keep going and go back into the Jewish Quarter in a different area. And if it's not too busy, you can get you a glimpse of the wall. So we'll see how things go. I wasn't sure if this planned trip was actually going to take place. We're doing some just day trips on this tour. On this trip, I should say. But we may put together some tours in the future. So if you're interested, just stay in touch with me. And during this feast, I'm going to try to do some more videos and maybe even do my weekly newsletter from under my sukkah instead of just reading. Maybe I'll try to do it with a little more information of where I'm at and all that. So you can see somebody's got their sukkah there. They build sukkahs in many different ways. Some do white plastic, and they, according to their rabbinic traditions, you've got to have at least 3 sides covered. And I don't subscribe to that. And quite frankly, I don't like to be surrounded by plastic. So a lot of people use the wooden sukkahs, which is nicer to spend some time in them. And like here's one right here. If you ever want to see an interesting movie from a Jewish perspective on Sukkot, it's called Ushpazim. Ushpazim is the Hebrew word for guests, and it's a really good movie, and it kind of shows you that whole perspective of getting ready for Sukkot and being in the sukkah and inviting guests, and according to their Jewish traditions. Okay. So we're going out into the main square in the Jewish Quarter, where most of their activities take place. And you can see how busy it is. If I went this way, it would take me right down to the wall. But I'm going to go this way so I can go grab my shofar and yeah, I guess we're going to go right by the old wall too, so I can show you that real quickly so you can get a glimpse. Sorry if this is a little shaky. I'm kind of ad-libbing here. I really didn't plan on doing this, but I thought it would be nice to at least share some of the sights and sounds. Yeah, so here's the there's now. Oh, look at. Well, you used to be able to see all the stones of the wall. Looks like they're doing something to either preserve it. Not sure. But anyways, this is, you used to be able to see the stone top of this wall. You can see how wide it is. And you can see how low it is from everything else. And there they have the estimated height of the wall right there. So, gives you a little more perspective on that. And here's one of those spots that I told you about, where you can actually see down lower and some of the original walls and structures. And then we go down into the Cardo, and there's a couple spots down here where you can actually see that as well. But anyways, I have arrived to my destination. I have some nice stuff down here, but this is where I like to go to get my shofars. The shofar guy, the shofar man, they call him. He's a little more expensive, but usually he has really high quality ones. So if you just want a shofar to look at, well, you can go anywhere, any of the souvenir shops. But if you want a nice one that's really going to blow well, he tests them ahead of time and rates them. So that's always nice too. Anyways, this is my destination, and until next time, Hag Sameach. This is Todd Bennett from Jerusalem.